allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's have a moment of silence again for our federal government as we have a State of the Union message tonight that at least they'll try to be a little bit cordial to each other. Thank you.
I think it's going to take more than prayers for that.
Try. The first item of business is a notice here on the activity bonds, the allocation for Maryland. It's just for our information. We have not typically used this, so there's no action that we have to take on it. Next, we have the reading of the minutes from our last meeting, plus the liquor minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Now I've lost my... Next thing we have is a raffle for Kent School.
And for Betterton Still Ponds Lions Club.
And for the Betterton Lions Club.
Right.
Do we have a motion to...
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was for the approval of the raffle permits,
Raffle permits.
nonprofit fundraising events.
Now we...
Why don't you click this out? Get it out
This?
of the way. Take this off your screen and you'll have it like this and you can read that if you want. It's up to you.
Oh, okay. Mr. Yeager will now handle the Special Class C licenses.
Yes, Mr. President, the Community Volunteer Fire Company of Millington has an annual cornhole tournament. So they are seeking special Class C license for several consecutive weeks in February over the course of the tournament. So it's my understanding it's essentially one event, but it's spread out over several days. And then the Betterton Still Ponds Lions Club has their horse racing event on March 2nd, which is the event for which you approved the gaming devices, because they're having a raffle and then the video horse racing. And they sell beer at that also, so they have applied for a special one-day license. So I would recommend that you can take the Millington ones up collectively together, approve all those, and then separately take up the Betterton request for a license. And these are both bona fide nonprofit organizations that are well known in the county. And you approve?
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. We now have a...
Actually, you want to do approve, you want to make sure you approve each of them. So I think you did one motion to approve, you just want to make sure.
Made a motion to approve them all.
Okay,
That was for the Millington.
All right.
you're good. Now you want to approve the Betterton.
Up in prison there.
That motion to approve Millington. That's fine. Now we're have to do Betterton. So
No, we
All we
don't.
got to do is make a motion.
make a motion to approve Betterton Lions Club.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. We now have legislative session, introduction of, we just need to vote on that, is it?
Go into legislative.
So you want to make a motion to
Make
go
a
into
motion to
legislative
go
session.
into legislative session.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Now you would, we would introduce Code Home Rule. I can read this into the record if you like, Mr. President.
Yes.
This is Code Home Rule 1-2019, Country Inn Special Exception Use. This is an act to amend Article 7, Section 7.16.f, Country Inn Special Exception Use of the Kent County Land Use Ordinance by amending the provision that sets forth the limitation on extension or enlargement of the Country Inn Special Exception Use in the Agricultural Zone, AZD, Resource Conservation Zone, RCD, Rural Character Zone, RC, Rural Residential Zone, RR, Critical Area Residential, CAR, Community Residential, CR, and Marine, M, districts. And you are introducing this tonight, and you will be scheduling this for a public hearing on March 5th, if that's acceptable to the board. And following the public hearing, then you would vote on the legislation. So you're not voting on it tonight, you're simply introducing it.
And I think they're going to vote to introduce it.
Right.
Officially.
This isn't whether you're passing it or not. This is just to introduce it, to send it on for public hearing.
Make a motion that we introduce
Code Home Rule 1-2009.
Code Home Rule legislation. What is the number? That's it.
2019.
1/2019.
1/2019.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we're now on to,
Now,
You want
take
to,
a
public
vote.
hearing. You want to have a, I think we took a vote to introduce it, so it's introduced. Now you want to schedule the public hearing, and then you want to take a vote to go out of legislative session.
so we have to vote for the public hearing? I thought we did that.
So we have to make a motion to have a public hearing on 18 Cliff Road properties.
I think you can just direct the staff to schedule for public hearing.
March 5th.
March 5th, right. I thought that's what we were
Yeah.
voting.
And
And now
now,
we have to have a motion to go out of legislative session.
yes.
Motion to go out of legislative session.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we now have appointments, I think Roy Crow, is he here, or? If not, I believe this is to add, there's a bill, Senate Bill 99, dealing with buildings used for agritourism. And we want to add Kent County to this. Let me get down here,
Brief summary of the bill.
if you have it.
Sure. So this is in the public safety article of the Maryland Annotated Code, and this deals with exempting agricultural buildings for agritourism uses from certain building performance standards. And right now, it is effective in certain counties in the state. Anne Arundel has submitted a bill, Senate Bill 99, to include Anne Arundel in the list of counties, and Mr. Crow would like the three of you to consider a request from the General Assembly to also add Kent County, and thereby amending the Anne Arundel bill to include Kent County for inclusion of agritourism buildings.
I'll make a motion that we ask to have Kent County added to Senate Bill 99.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Okay, we will draft a letter of support then and forward to the respective committees and to our delegation.
Okay, next item of business, Merle Cole. I don't know what, let's see. Yes. Sure.
Pull up some extra chairs if you need to.
I'm Muriel Cole. Carolyn Sordy. Maggie Baker. Sam Johnston. And
to out for the interests of seniors in Kent County. Advocating them and come before you periodically. According to our bylaws, this annual report. Have that. Supplements to highlight items on the annual report. Okay, we have, just as background, we have a monthly meeting at our Fisher Aging, and we look at we talk about topics of particular interest, healthcare, transportation, community, our members represent to try to appoint our members, the representative of the county, so that we can do representation. Distributed to our churches. And we have a small budget that we do, we have some special projects. In 2018,
Historically, one of the important things we've done for our seniors is every 2 years, we contact businesses in the community, and we do a brochure about all of the businesses and just across Queen Anne's County who offer discounts for senior citizens. Restaurants, Caldwell's Tire, and it's a really good comprehensive way to seniors who might have difficulty making ends meet. One of my favorite ones is propane companies offer a very good discount, and the businesses like it because it gives them advertising, but our seniors love it. And you all have something.
You notice it's in a large print.
Thank you.
Big font.
okay, so that's one of our projects. We also coordinate, well, we're one of the 7 or 8 commissions on aging on the Eastern Shore. By law, each county is supposed to have a commission. Annually, including the other Eastern Shore groups. We also go to Annapolis once a year and our legislature. We second one is we participate in a seniors rally in Annapolis for at the United States of Maryland, and also directly with our legislators on issues. Budget for the state agency that funds our helps fund our health program and our Water Creek Senior Center. We never enough money, and mention that. But we have are really interested in that and following all of the legislation that affects seniors in Maryland. First bullet there is one of our plans is to host a public meeting of all the local home health care providers, which are really exploding. We're doing that in the senior center sometimes. Open to the public. So we do have education. Trying to learn what's local.
And one of the things that's important about having community members all throughout the county is that we don't just keep local in our group. We go out and assembly to talk to our church locally. Share.
Anything you'd like us to do?
Well, thank you, and I think as all of us, or well, Bob not, he's not old yet, but the rest of us, Ronnie, are you old yet?
I'm old.
Okay, he just had a birthday yesterday, so.
You don't have an age on this thing, I'm getting close.
It depends on the right,
Yes.
on this, they vary.
So everybody varies their own.
Yes.
but it becomes more and more important as you age to realize how important these types of things are.
Is that what
It's
the
a-
quotation is here, the
Parentheses.
parenthesis?
I'm looking at this. I have mixed feelings because some of these I qualify for now and some I don't. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Three more years of Bluebird Tavern.
I know you all know the demographics very well. 26.3% of us are over 5.
Right.
A lot of people don't, that's too high, we need young people. But that is, it exists now. This is the situation we're in. And 5,098 people and less than 300 of them are going to point. Most of us are in the
Right.
senior services and
There's this housing in the county, which is really lacked. Ellington is in the process of putting in a senior housing. So we started out with 16 homes, and that's built up. And talking to the manager today, she said that doing this are interested in properties. Like to see something there.
So would this be like 55 and over housing? Or that?
I've got all the paperwork.
it's senior housing and it's income-based.
Okay.
And right now, if you can, Tom Martin, housing, you can, there are two, undershore aging housing, senior housing complexes, one in Long Hall, which is one in Chestertown, Morgan Village, Acton.
Right.
Those have a significant waiting list to get in, like
Is it?
years. Get in there, housing, really need one.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like we need more housing for seniors. Okay, well, gives us something else to work for.
We're here to help.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We now have Sabrina Harvey with the University of Maryland Extension.
You can scooch down. Yeah, this is what you have. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, good evening. It's nice to meet you all. My name is Sabine Harvey. I work for the University of Maryland Extension, actually by the grace of this body, because in 2007, the previous commissioners approved to hire me for this position. So I'm part-time, and Master Gardener, that sounds really fancy, and it kind of is. It's not just gardening, but the main purpose of being a Master Gardener is actually to volunteer in the community. So what we do is we have a basic training every year, and we have one coming up starting on February 21st, and I need to advertise it. I have some flyers there because even though we do this training together with Queen Anne's County, Talbot, and Dorchester County, Kent County is too small potatoes to have their own Master Gardener program. So no, this is not on the slides. I just thought I needed an introduction. So we report to Queen Anne's County. But this year, there are very few people signed up, and it's already February. So we are in danger of having to cancel our basic training, which would mean that we don't have a new group of volunteers. And the Master Gardener program really stands and falls with volunteers, because what we do after we get our training is we go out into the community and we teach people about good environmental practices, about how to garden, keeping your Chesapeake Bay in mind, or if you want to grow your own food, we help you with all that kind of stuff. So that is important to do, and it's important for my job too, because most of the events that are on here, the Master Gardener volunteers will come out and help They help set up, they help with speakers, they do all kinds of things. So the first thing, so I come every year and I tell you what I've been up to or what I'm going to be up to, and it's going to be an exciting year because, well, for the past 20 years, every Friday in March, we have held the Kent Horticultural Lecture Series. So this is year 20, so that's a milestone. And I have to thank Jackie because we get to do these programs in the library, and we used to have them at our office, but the audience just grew too big, and there wasn't enough parking, and we didn't fit. So now we get to be at the library, and usually between 30 and 50 people show up, and sometimes more than that. So I have some wonderful speakers this year, and with a wide variety of topics. So if you're into gardening, the first lecture is going to be about frogs and snakes in the garden, something we have never done. And the second one will be Kate Livy, local resident and very well known and writer, and she's going to talk about grasses in the Chesapeake Bay. And then on March 22nd, I'm very excited about this, Ruth Rogers Clausen, who is actually a very well-published author, is going to come to Kent County to talk about the Delaware Botanic Gardens. And apparently they're already talking about it, and they aren't even open yet. So this will be a very nice lecture. And then the last one will be the president of the Mycological Association of Washington. And that means he's going to talk about mushrooms. So in the garden, most of those you do not ever want to eat, because that would not be such a good thing. So those are some of that is one of the highlights for the 20th anniversary of these lecture series. So we do this every year. I talked about the basic Master Gardener training. I'm going to skip the Food Summit for just a second. The day after the Food Summit, we will do our 5th annual seed swap, once again in collaboration with the library. And we started this 5 years ago, and the first year, maybe 20 people came. And it's not so much a seed swap as a seed giveaway. The idea is that people actually save seeds and that we then, we exchange them. But, saving seeds is not always easy. So this has grown into a big event. In like 2 hours, more than 100 people will walk through the door. And a lot of our local businesses, they actually donate seeds, and some of the seed houses will as well. Because the thing is, by law, they cannot sell the seeds of the previous year. So all the seeds that were packaged for 2018, they're just sitting in those packages, and they are, except for onions, but those seeds are totally perfectly viable seeds. So we want to do something with those seeds. So I have a desk full of seeds right now, and we've gotten seeds from JBK, from Kingstown, from the Ace Hardware in Centerville, from Agway, from Baker's Creek Heirloom Seeds, which is a very nice national company, and from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. So there will be lots of seeds on the 22nd. And then the other thing that we started doing 5 years ago was the annual tomato tasting event. And we started doing this at Lockbriar Farms. And last year we moved to, we were part of Legacy Day, and that was absolutely fantastic. So our local farmers will donate a wide variety of tomatoes. And with the Master Gardener volunteers, this is a huge operation. We will cut them up, and people get to taste them. Usually we have something like 20 different varieties of tomatoes. And they get to vote for which ones they like the best, or, whatever, which one looks the best, whatever the heck. But it is a nice event. It's a huge event. We do a lot of education about growing tomatoes and preserving tomatoes. And it's just, it's a very fun event. For one thing, it's warm. That helps, right? And then plant clinics. So this is where our Master Gardener volunteers come in. You will see me with my volunteers at the farmers market, usually every other week, and we set up a booth. And by now people know that we're there, and they will actually come with bags with diseased plants or with insects, asking what those are. So we do a lot of education. We do a lot of, like, what is growing in your backyard, what invasive plants are growing in your backyard right now, what to look out for, what kind of diseases are rearing their ugly heads, what kind of insects, for instance, trying to keep at bay the, what is it? Not just the stink bug, but the, help me out here. No, the spotted lanternfly. Thank you, Brain. There we go. Because we don't want that here on the Eastern Shore. So things like that, so that we can help people be aware of what's going on and keep our county healthy. And obviously, it all starts and falls with educating kids. So we do a lot of programs together with Kent County Public Schools. We take the entire third grade to a whole bunch of farms every year. We take them to a poultry operation. We take them to St. Bridget's, where they learn where milk comes from and what we can do with milk. And then we take them to a vegetable producing farm to see how their food grows. We take fourth grade out twice a year and teach them lots about the environment. One time in the fall, we take them to Eastern Neck Wildlife Refuge, and then in the spring we take them to the Sassafras Environmental Education Center. I do summer school programs, and right now we are running a very successful 4-H nature club at the library again. What will we do without the library, Jackie? So every first and third Monday of the month, we take about 30 kids that come from Garnett, and we do a nature club, and we do all kinds of fun stuff. And we even got to plant some plants, and hopefully we'll get to plant some new ones. And if that is not enough, I also run the garden at the middle school. And that garden has been in existence since 2010, and it's still there, and we're still growing vegetables. 7th grade helps maintain the garden, and then my colleague Beth Hill and I, we also go into the school every third week, and we get a group of about 25 kids very early in the morning, 7:40. And we do all kinds of fun things with the garden. And what the kids really want to do is they love the vegetables to eat, as it turns out. So we make sure that almost every time that we see these children, we prepare some sort of food. And the highlight this past year was that we actually managed to make sweet potato biscuits for the entire school with 25 kids. You do not want to know what happened to the classroom, because we did this in a classroom, but it all got back in working order again. And yes, we had sweet potato biscuits that we then served during lunch. So that was phenomenal. And then the last thing that I'm working on, which is something I have never done before, but that is the Food Summit. And where is it? Is it on here? Yeah, there it is. Hold on. Let me go down. There we go. And it will be on February 22nd. That's a Friday, from 8 to 12:15 p.m. at the Emmanuel Church here in Chestertown. And what we are going to do is, this is really a community gathering, and it is an opportunity for people to talk to each other, to see whether we have excess produce, excess food in the county, what we actually do with it, if we can do something with it, what any type of impediments are for getting this food to people who need it. Or, if we're so lucky that we do have food and we donate it, can people actually do something with it, right? Because, let's face it, if somebody hands you a kohlrabi, would you know what to do with it? Maybe not so much. So, this is an opportunity to really to talk to each other and to figure out, what can we do, what do we need to do, and can we come up with some sort of better system to figure this out? So I've put together 3 panels. The first one is a growers panel, which has Bob Arnold on it, a larger commercial farm, Barbara Ellis, a garden writer who used to run a smaller farm or a community garden, and they gave the food to St. Martin's Ministry, but because of a lack of volunteers, they can't continue. Wayne Gilchrist will be on that growers panel because at the Sassafras Environmental Education Center, they also have a garden, and he donates that stuff to the food pantry. And Teresa Mychek, who used to run Colchester Farm and who now works at Unity. And last but not least, Jan Baker, as the president of the Downtown DCA, because there's a lot of businesses downtown that have food left over at the end of the day. And what do you do with that food? Then the second panel will be a panel of representatives of recipients. So somebody from the community food pantry will be on there, somebody from the First United Methodist Church, who serves a dinner to 100 people every Monday night, will be on there, a representative from Mount Olive, and John Queen from Reconnect for Life. And they will share their knowledge, their observations, what they have seen. If food gets donated to them, can they do something with it or not? Or, what would they need in order to make that work? And then the third panel, that will be a panel of community agencies like Rosie Ramsey from the local management board, Amy Colley, who is the coordinator for the Maryland Food Bank on the Eastern Shore, and she does a lot of gleaning, mostly in Queen Anne's County and Talbot County, not so much in Kent County, so we'd like for her to come here. My colleague Emily Voorhees, who is a food nutrition educator, and then Lizzie Massey, who is a student at Washington College, because at Washington College they have a chapter of the Food Recovery Network, and they gather food there in the cafeteria, and they bring it to the First United Methodist Church every Monday. And then at the end we will do a wrap-up session of what we have learned and where we will take it from there. So that's a big thing. It's taking up all my time right now, but we've registration. I do ask people to register so that we set up enough chairs, right? And that we have enough refreshments. In a week and a half time, 70 people have registered. So it's going to be a good event. And in the afternoon, we will do a training for farmers called Farm to Market, which is a marketing training for people to advertise their wares at the farmers market. I have copies of all of this at the back of the table. And there is the seed swap. So if you're enthusiastic about growing this season and you don't have any seeds and you don't know where to start, come to any of these and we'll get you going. And then you can call me and say, oh, help, I have stink bugs. So, any questions? Sorry. Talk a mile a minute here. Let's see. Oh, and horticultural lectures. There we go. See? Spring is coming.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you for your enthusiasm, and extension's always been dear to my heart because that's where I got started as an extension agent. It wasn't in horticulture; it was with 4-H and with adult agricultural programs. But it's all education, and that's what it's all about.
It sure is.
Everything. Well, thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Tim Ellsworth. He's the executive director of Legit, which is our insurance company, our health co-op.
If you're showing us something up there, then you can.
Oh, right up here.
Come to you.
Yeah, we'll come to you for that.
This is one of the most pleasurable things I do during the year. But before I present the checks, I want to
good members, Kent County and the library have been both with the property liability and I was looking at some statistics today. And first of all, you loan all your county administrators to us to serve on our board, and Shelley's currently on the board and chairs our annual meeting committee. And it's a pleasure to work with. But other than that, you all have trained over 400 employees in the last 6 or 7. You have, you're getting, because of your good experience, you're getting about 20% off your retail price of your insurance and your credit discounts here at the county. Library, the same thing, hasn't done all the training, but they get about 30% discount off their retail insurance. Because I don't know that you've ever had a claim on property. I think it's like, yeah, there's been one. But great. But tonight I'm here specifically to give claims checks back to the health insurance program. We started this program back in July 1 of 2010. We partnered with the group out of Pennsylvania, Cigna Insurance, and I know back then Susie Hayden was the county administrator, and Susie was interested in networking there. So she and Marty and Lee worked very hard with the medical providers in the county and got them signed up, and the county just joined them, and Marty shared with me before the meeting tonight that you only now, 9 years later, are you paying what you paid for you joined the program. You take into account all the rebates that you received. So tonight, I'm here to present a check to the county for $418,000. This is for the 17-18 year. We have to settle out all the claims and reinsurance recoveries and everything before we can return. But that's a real pleasure. And the library gets $68,000 plus.
Wow.
Tonight. So their staff's about 200 employees on the program.
We have about 10.
Yeah, right. So that's impressive. Both are impressive. And overall, I think Kent County's gotten about $2.3 million. Out of 10, we've returned $10 million in the last 10 years. And so you've gotten about 20% of our total money returned. And I think the number we saw in that sheet I gave you is $168,000. Anyway, both are impressive. And so here's the check for the library. Thank you very much.
And I want to thank Marty and all of their assistants and the county especially for being our sponsor to enable us to do this.
They're really active in the program. It's no accident that you all done so well. Lee and Marty try very hard. They serve on committees. They attend all our health co-op meetings and just work really hard. So to whom do I give the $418,000?
It's all three of us.
Be the first time. You would come down here.
Nice seeing you again.
I see you.
Purpose of being the president.
Well, thank you. It's always good to get money back, no matter what the program is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Scott Boone.
Let me guess, you're not going to give us money?
I only have one thing for you. This is the final year of a 5-year deal that we have. We reached out to them to appreciate their sections that go allocate county practice. They probably don't get interest what fraction is everything. Past 5 years. So this has already been approved in the departmental budget. The budget there. And it's just all about so you're asking for
Make a motion to approve the Network Maryland invoice for FY19.
Second.
Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Now we have Mike.
Good evening.
Evening.
I have 4 items on the agenda for you tonight for approval. I'd like to take the DNR grant agreement first out of order. That would help. I figure it's good to approve the money before we spend it. So the item is a DNR waterway improvement grant agreement for the Rock Hall Entrance Channel Dredge project. And we're looking for approval to sign off on the agreement, and this is funding for 100% for the Rock Hall Entrance Dredging project, which is ready to go, and that'll be your next item to approve. And
solely by DNR.
Yep, 100%. And the grant agreement here is for $190,000.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Okay, thank you. The second item then is the contract for the Rock Hall Harbor Entrance Dredging project. That was competitively bid. We had 5 bidders. The low bidder is Disson and June out of Stevensville, and the amount of the contract is $126,223. We bid this project along with the another dredging project, so we were very fortunate in getting some very good prices. The other thing that's a nice advantage is they're willing to start work on it in the spring short window we have in spring to get the channel dredged. So we're looking for approval to award the contract to Disson in June, the amount of $126,233.
Make a motion to award the contract to the Rock Hall.
And I'll second it.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The third item on the agenda is with the water and wastewater. It's an allocation request. This is for 2 water and 2 sewer allocations for a property. It's tax map 20, parcel 220. Mr. William Darling Sr., 11070 Hillcrest Road, is looking to build 2 homes there. And we're recommending approval of that allocation request.
I will going to ask you if do me a favor, repeat that. I was.
Oh, you're fine.
I missed it.
This is for 2 water and 2 sewer allocations altogether, and it's tax map 20, parcel 220. It's out there in Butlertown, Hillcrest Road area.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The fourth item I have also is a allocation request. This is for a water allocation. This is for the former Ford's Seafood Restaurant. They're looking to market the property. It has already 7 sewer allocations associated with it as a result of the lot subdivision that was put in. So what they want to do is also get and reserve the same number of water allocations. So we're looking for approval for 7 water allocations for the property at 6262 Rock Hall Road.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
I had one other thing I wanted to ask, came up today. We are getting our delivery of our 2 replacement trucks for the grounds maintenance crew, pickups, going to be delivered on Friday. This is with the Enterprise lease. And we've had a request from Joe Wheeler over at the Board of Ed. His vehicle's been damaged, and he's looking for another vehicle. And I know there's some discussion sometimes with vehicles that we have available, whether they're donated or transferred to other facilities. But he's interested in one of the pickup trucks.
Motion that we award one of the old pickups to the Board of Education.
I second it.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Mike.
We are now to Marty.
Thank you. Tonight I have two requests in front of you. The first one is a request for a part-time facility monitor at the Parks and Rec Department. We're requesting approval of the identified individual to fill the vacant facility monitor position and also approve some other additional duties as well pending the county requirements.
I recommend we approve the recommendation.
And I'll second that.
Any discussion? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Okay, and last, we're here requesting approval to...
Can you join us for the closed session to discuss this item?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, no questions, that's all I have for you this evening.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Tom, you have information here on the Millington School
Yes,
property.
a couple of things for you. First, there is the interagency public school transfer agreement that the state presented to us as a prerequisite before we can obtain title to the Millington School property. We looked into this because there is some current debt on the property, and we looked into this to see if the county pays the current debt in full, as we plan to do, if this agreement would then be moot and not necessary. And the response that we got from the state, and Pat Merritt had looked into this, and I think Shelley did as well, was no, the state still requires this agreement because of all the funds that the state has expended on this property over the years. So we would be required by the state of Maryland to enter into this agreement before we can have a deed transferring the property to us. So I wanted to advise you of that. Second, I did prepare. Yes.
May I?
Sure.
So what that means is in perpetuity, any it's received for that property would be shared with the state in the same percentage as the amount of expenditure that both parties have put into it. I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
That's correct. I mean, going way back.
Right. And we don't have what that percentage is. We've asked the state to look into it to at least tell us what that is.
Right. And we felt that's been problematic since the get-go, because originally we thought, well, if we just pay the $167,000, which is the current debt, there'd be no need for this agreement.
Right.
And the state has come back and said no, but they aren't able to quantify exactly what they've spent over the years and what the percentage share of the county would be. The second thing is I prepared a deed, and it's a form of a deed. It's not complete because the deed and the recitals would have to set forth the date that the transfer agreement is fully executed and also the date of approval by the Board of Public Works. So before we could take title, not only does the transfer agreement have to be fully executed, but also the State Board of Public Works would have to approve. So I've presented a deed for you to seek approval in form for this deed. So if and when the time comes to accept the Millington School property, we could tender this deed to the Board of Education for their signature. Since I was tasked with doing that, discussions now have developed about perhaps maybe the Millington School property may be able to be used for educational purposes once again in the future. So if those discussions are viable and ongoing, and if that's a possibility, my suggestion would be that we not move forward at this time on the transfer agreement and the deed because they would be moot. It doesn't make sense to take title to the property and then to transfer it back to school board, which we would do if the property became used for educational purposes again. So I don't see any urgency here. It seems to me that a proper course of action would be to put approval of these documents on hold right now, pending further discussions that you're having with the Board of Education regarding the future of the Millington School.
I would also like to add that the Board of Education attorney has reviewed the deed transfer and concurs that it's in order.
So, I mean, you could approve this form for if and when we decide to move forward. So if it turns out the property is not going to be used as a school and we're going to take it, you can approve this deed form. I would recommend we hold off and not sign the interagency agreement until such time we are certain that this property is not going to be used as a school.
I think that's a good I think it's a good idea to just put it all on hold because of the discussions we had at our joint meeting. Some of us have even taken a step further, and we have some ideas we'd like to send to the Board of Education for their review and consideration and stuff. So I agree with what you said, that we just put it on hold temporarily.
So we would have a motion to table.
I'll make a motion that we table that transfer of property until
further
notice.
Second.
Second it.
Okay.
You second it?
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion? Not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, Shelley, you're up.
All right, I have very few things for you this evening. I would like to start with the Ethics Commission. We've had a resignation from a member of the Ethics Commission. We do not have a recommendation for a replacement at this point in time, but there is a thank you letter for your signature included in the packet to Mrs. Linda Cook, thanking her for her time that she's dedicated to the commission. The second item is also a non-action, and this is a letter from Andrew Hollis, who's the county manager of Talbot County, and he works with DCT on our public transportation. And right now, every year, there's a public hearing that where DCT, Delmarva Community Transit, presents what the plan is in the upcoming year. And our public hearing for this coming year is at Kent County Public Library, so another shout out to Ms. Adams for the use of the public library. It is on February 20th from 10 to 11, and anybody that's interested in commenting, I would encourage to attend. A copy of the transportation plan is included with our packet for anybody who would like to review it. The third item I have for you is the only for action item that I have for you this evening. This is a legislative bond initiative. There are 3 letters included in your packet. The first to the delegation, the second to the House Appropriations Committee, and the third is to the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee. This is on behalf of Echo Hill School. They are requesting a bond for improvements that will help grow capacity of their facility, expand the curriculum, and improve infrastructure that's already existing. So if you would like to support that legislative bond request, please move that forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for a letter of support for the legislative bond initiative for Echo Hill Outdoor School.
Second it.
Is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Also included in your packets are letters for the proposed Kent Family Center Advisory Board that was discussed last meeting with Ms. Ingo, the director.
These are appointment letters.
Correct.
Make a motion. We don't need.
You did
We've
last time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's just for signature.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now these, for information, do we have to act on them? There's nothing.
No, they're just letters for informational purposes. So they're attached to your packet for review.
Well, the first one is on the solar site out on Morgan Neck Road, where the commissioners and the Kent Preservation and the town are all opposed to it, and we're supporting that.
Correct. You've submitted a petition to intervene in that case, and the particular piece of correspondence that's attached to your packet is a notification of the scheduled hearing is going to be postponed due to an incomplete application on behalf of the applicant. So that will be after March 1st. It has been scheduled? Okay.
March 8th, so it's been rescheduled for March 8th. Okay, then we also have here for a permit to appropriate and use waters of the state from Timothy Redmond. This is to put in an irrigation system. There's really no action that we need to take on that.
Correct. That's just a notice for public consumption of the appropriation request.
Okay, so we can close our open meeting, or do we have any immediate questions?
You would have public comment,
Right,
and
public
then after
comment
public
or-
comment, you would have a motion to go into closed session.
Okay, and we do have some, okay.
Yeah, we've got some public comment.
Yep.
Doubling down on this, the idea of this Millington school, we started a conversation with a joint meeting with the Board of Ed and the county commissioners, and we had a discussion about, it's almost inevitable, as far as I'm concerned, that we're going to be confronted with raising some additional revenue for the school system, and I have no problem with that in the future, and I don't have a problem with that. But what I want to make sure, and what I brought up the other night, was have we gone far enough with our consolidation? And the whole idea behind the consolidation effort from the beginning was to stop putting money into bricks and mortar and start putting as much of it into the classroom as possible. And we talked about different scenarios. But the one scenario that I'd like to present, and I think I want to say that there was some favorable response, other than myself, in that discussion that day, was to be, one of the things is the high school is probably the most underutilized school we have in the county. It's at about 48% capacity. The state-rated capacity is 1,161 students, is what they say it'll hold. We're at 562 right now. I haven't had a chance to put this all together, but I'm going to run over it real quick as to what I think might be worth a discussion as where we end up in this whole consolidation issue. If it was all up to me to put it together, this is a place that I would start. I would take and put and do away with the middle school. I'd put 7th and 8th graders out to the high school, which would better utilize the building that's underutilized. We would need to put 280 students into the high school. That would be the 7th and 8th grade. You add what we have in the high school now, and you put 280 more students out there. It still leaves 319, a growth of 319 in case the trend of the declining population was to mysteriously turn around. You would still have room for 319 students at the high school. But we know that high school is a building that we can never get rid of unless we completely get rid of the school system. We have to have a high school. I'd like to see us fully more utilize that by putting the 7th and 8th graders. Then there was some talk about, okay, well, we got the 6th grade left. The total, if you add up Galena, Garnett, and Rock Hall, the state capacity, you come to 283 students. There's room for 283 students in those three schools. 92 could go into Galena, 132 could go in Garnett, 59 in Rock Hall. So some of them are getting pretty well close to maxed out. But you have 283, wait a minute, let me get my numbers straight here. You have
Room for
283, room for 283 already. Then if we brought Millington Elementary back online, that holds 272 for a total of 555 students. That's how much room, we would have room for 155 students. There's 146 graders that we would have to find space for, and my suggestion would be to divide them up as they would be around those 4 elementary schools based on where they live. That leaves the 4 elementary schools with 415 additional spaces for future elementary school people. And listen, that is even taken into consideration the pre-K and the kindergarten. When we take in pre-K, kindergarten, put the 6th grade back in there, we would have room for 415 more students if this growth pattern was to mysteriously switch. So we would then end up with 1 high school, 4 elementary schools around the county, and we would have room for growth in each one of those scenarios. And then because I know one of the issues was they'd like to have the Board of Education on that campus somewhere, I'd be willing to look at taking a piece of Wharton Elementary School, allowing them to put some Board of Education offices in there, which would then allow us to close down the Board of Education office in Rock Hall. And possibly we could use the county could possibly use the other end of Wharton Elementary School to house some of the agencies that we're now paying rent for in other parts of the county. So, look, this is just something that I've put together. I'm going to put it in more of an official status and present it to Dr. Couch and the Board of Education and let them take it and do with it what they want. But I would feel comfortable that that's where our final consolidation should land, and it would be, in my opinion, something worth taking a look at. I'm not going to say that everything's easy. Nothing's easy. If it was, it would have been done probably a long time ago. I feel like this, we get the biggest bang for our buck. The middle school was getting ready to cost us a lot of money. I'd rather see that money spent. If we have to put an addition on here or an addition on there, it'll be brand new than to just keep dumping money into some of these older schools. That's just food for thought, and as I said, we'll put it in more of official mode and present it to the Board of Ed and Dr. Couch and let them take a look at it, and I'd look forward to hearing back any comment.
My thoughts have always been on this, that, every year we consolidate, we close schools, we're kind of in a doom and gloom scenario. And that just killed me. And, I'm not saying I like this scenario. I'm not saying I'm against this or for it. But I think we need to put all options on the table, and we really got to start thinking outside the box, because I don't think we're going to continue to consolidate here forever, and we're going to need a path to grow at some point. And if we didn't consolidate that, but, I like to try like hell to be creative. I mean, the one plus on this right now is we're not busting and say, well, we're spreading out our resources now, because now we're not consolidating our resources in one school. So there are going to be pros and cons to all this, and I don't think what we're saying is we're set on anything, but we're willing to talk about anything and put all options out there.
Right. I think that's the big thing. We're throwing this out as a matter of discussion, and whether that's the way it'll end up, we don't know. But I think it's something we can discuss to try to do, working together, what's best for the county and for all of our students.
And we haven't had I haven't taken the time to do it yet, but I'd like to work with some of our staff and put together some of the pros and cons as to what this would do. I mean, like, fully utilize the high school. I like the idea personally of seeing the 4 elementary schools, which keeps the young kids closer to mom and dad until they're ready to venture off to the high school. Anyhow, we're going to put together a list of things that we think might might show the advantages or disadvantages, and we would look forward to hearing some response from the Board of Ed.
And all parents and everybody in the audience, I mean, tell us what you think, you know?
That's all I got.
Okay. Well, I guess it's the time for public comment.
Dr. Couch had her hand up.
Oh, we're on this topic.
Thank you. I assume that's why you were asking for numbers, and I'm glad to hear that, you know, you're thinking about ideas. I would call to your attention that we had almost a year-long strategic planning committee in which we garnered quite a number of input from the community. We had all of the minutes that we had on our website. We had at least 4 community meetings throughout the county. We spent a great deal of time looking at educational configurations, what's best for our students based on the educational requirements now for middle school, and what's required in the elementary school. I hear you. We grappled with the same, you know, what's the best way of configuring, what's going to be the best educational environment for our kids. And that's why I sent you the strategic plan. I think a lot of it is outlined. We considered a number of the same thing that I'm hearing again tonight. And what I would say is, you know, it wasn't a overnight cooked up idea that we had in terms of making the final recommendations that we did. I would also remind county commissioners what I stated at the joint meeting, that state-rated capacity is a number on paper. It doesn't necessarily mean there are available classrooms. I would ask all of you to spend some time going into our schools. Look and see what classrooms are available. How many empty classrooms? You're talking about there's 100 spaces here, there's room for 200 kids there. Those are numbers on paper. What I would say is there's a number of special education requirements, a number of requirements for meeting the needs of our students that requires classrooms. So we may have smaller class sizes, but we still have to have the classrooms. For instance, in the high school itself. Yes, we do have, I'm not going to deny that there are some classrooms that are available, but you know, we have our CTE programs that have grown since the time when the high school was first put together. We have a number of CTE pathways that we've added, and we're using up those spaces. So we may only have, you know, 50 kids in a particular pathway, but we need the classrooms. So I would urge you to go to the high school and go and walk up and down the halls, see what those classrooms are being used for. We do not have those spaces. When we had the strategic planning committee together, that's what we did. We went out to all of the schools and we said, okay, let's look and see what spaces are being utilized. One of the things that I am going to recommend in our next budget is a feasibility study with the middle school. Because you're right, we have to think about all of the possibilities with regard to the middle school. Do we fix that school? Do we build a new school? Do we consider perhaps moving that into a portion of the high school? But in order to do that, you have to make a decision about what is needed for a stellar middle school. You know, look at all of our people on the shore. One of the things we talked about in our strategic planning was every school system on the shore has built a new middle school. And the reason why they built new middle schools is because there are additional requirements that the schools in the curriculum that we have to provide, and you need those spaces. We don't have those spaces in our current middle school. So, you know, what I would say is it sounds all fine and well, and I'm all for considering all options, but I think there are a lot of educational parts of this plan that you have to consider before you just look at numbers. So that's what I would say just off the top of my head. Thank you.
Well, I think it starts a discussion, and that's what we have to do. I think we have to start the discussion to see where we want to go. That's what's best for the students, for the parents, and for King County. So thank you. Okay, we now have some other people that asked to speak. Sue Dorsey.
Speaking of students, my name is Sue Dorsey, and I'm a retired Kent County public school teacher. I'm here for all good news. I have been recently involved in some talks with some people about the Promise Scholarship, and I wanted to come here tonight to promote that scholarship. The scholarship was approved last year by the Maryland legislature and went into effect January of this year. And it's a scholarship that basically, if kids are willing to go to community college and to state schools, they would have their tuition provided by the state of Maryland. Usually when students apply for scholarship money through the government, federal or state, they're told their family's income is too high to be eligible, and even though they can't afford to go without any help or taking out loans. However, the Promise Scholarship allows students to go to community college, and they're all eligible if they live in a two-parent household that makes no more than $150,000 a year, or a single-parent household that makes $100,000 a year.
That cover a lot of Kent County.
That would cover a lot. This is why I'm here tonight. I know that would cover a whole lot of kids in Kent County who never thought college was within their reach. They also have to have graduated or earned a GED within the last 2 years and earned an overall GPA in high school of 2.3, again, covering a lot of kids. So, the United Way and the Local Management Board in Kent County have identified multi-generational poverty as a concern in Kent County. I'm sure you're aware of that. After a career of teaching in Kent County, I wholeheartedly agree with that assessment, and I believe that making college free will help address that concern and give students and their families hope for breaking the cycle of poverty. Scholarship provides, if they meet those two criteria, a 2.3, and they aren't wealthy, incredibly wealthy, $5,000 a year for tuition at a community college in Maryland. In order to apply, students must first complete the FAFSA. So they need to rule out if they are going to get federal grants, not loans, then that has to be applied first toward their tuition. I have talked to Bernie Sadusky, who is now the Executive Director of Maryland Association of Community Colleges, and he assures me that $5,000 would cover tuition for each of the Maryland community colleges for a year. He also has filled me in on legislation which is currently in committee and supported by both houses and the governor called the Promise Plus Bill. It's MDHB 41. It's right now in committee, which is going to amend the Promise Scholarship to provide up to $10,000 a year tuition at a four-year state college once students have earned their AA at a community college, graduating with a 2.5 GPA. I find this very exciting. I'm very hopeful for students. However, we got to act fast. It's this year for fall college, but they have to first put their FAFSA in by March 1st, 2019. So I'm meeting with organizations, talking to people, saying, tell your kids, tell your parents, get the FAFSA in. The Promise Scholarship application is not going to be available until after March 1st. And that application is free, the FAFSA application is free, and application to Chesapeake College is free. So this is going to cost nobody anything but their time and energy filling out some paperwork. There is a stipulation that for each year that an applicant uses the Promise Scholarship, he or she must commit to working for a year in Maryland once they have finished college. Now, one of the ways that I have tried to get the word out is I have a Facebook page, if any of you all are on Facebook, that I've created that anyone in the United States can access. Its title is Promise, free college tuition. There's a lot of information on there. There are websites on there. You can also contact the Maryland Higher Education Commission, and when you go on their website, or if you just Google Promise Scholarship, the page will show up either way. So I'm hoping to get the word out I'm meeting with Kent United Way in a couple weeks, and hopefully with the local management board. I'd like to even get the two of those organizations involved in maybe putting aside some money for books, because this only covers tuition, and I think that for some of our students, they could use some help with that. I talked to the United Way representative or director today, and she and I also are going to talk about transportation issues for kids. I think she'd like to expand the the MUST program, to make it easier for kids to get up and down to Chesapeake College. So I'm very hopeful that we can get some of our kids to college, and they won't have loans, and they'll be able to go for free. We just need to get the word out to them because it is so new.
Did you catch the date for the transportation plan that I mentioned earlier in the meeting?
I did, and I had heard that was one of the areas of need that the LMB had done their survey or did that study last summer.
United Way as well.
And and it was the multi-generational poverty and the transportation were 2 out of the 4. I think there were 4 areas they were most concerned about. So right away, as a former teacher, we have a lot of kids that are...
I would recommend as many people as possible attending the DCT hearing, because the more that they hear that one of the destinations needs to be more frequently Chesapeake College, the better off we're going to be. That's DCT, and that is part of the MUST schedule, so that's all intertwined.
Well, and I know that was something that the United Way, her name is Beth
Everett.
And we're going to talk about, we're meeting on the 18th. And so, and I passed on some of the information to her today. We just talked via phone, but the 18th was the first we could meet. And I'm just a citizen who is just trying to get the word out. So I came tonight just to make sure you guys are aware of it. So if any of your constituents run up to you and say, hey, what do you know about that Promise Scholarship? You can say, you can Google it, and it's a really good idea. And that's all you really need to know about it.
So it sounds like a great program.
I think it's a great program. I think we're really lucky.
Are you working through the schools too, the guidance counselors? And
I have talked to Tracy Williams about 2 weeks ago, and she has been passing the information on to guidance counselors, and I told her any way I can help, just let me know. I told her I know teachers and guidance counselors are in over their head because I was a teacher. I never had time to do anything, but I'm retired now. I said, if you want me to come talk to kids, I will. If you want me to talk to PTA, I will. Whatever you need, so I'm just waiting to hear back from her. But she was my first stop, absolutely.
So now, what if the student goes to the community college, but then doesn't go to a state college? So they have to pay that money back?
No. Right now, the scholarship as is only for community college. And Mr. Sadusky tells me it's covering most but not all of the trade options. However, the Promise Plus, which again he felt very confident is going to pass, would cover all of the trade type programs at the community colleges, and in addition provide for the 2 years after community college. I think it's about as good as it gets. I couldn't have been more excited. I just found out about it in the fall. I waited until January for it to be in effect, and then I started reaching out to people.
One of the problems that we have had in Maryland, particularly with the University of Maryland, we have tremendous student. I know several students that graduated from Kent County with 4+ averages and could not get into the University of Maryland. Mm-hmm. And it blows my mind. They're getting into Delaware. I know some of them have gotten into Cornell, but it all gets down to because they're thrown in with a big bunch here, and then there's more money for the University of Maryland to accept a student from New Jersey.
Exactly, that's true.
Because they make more money. And somewhere that's got to, we fought this in Farm Bureau with farm kids that wanted to go to Maryland, an agricultural program, and they didn't get accepted, even though they had good grades, they were active. Everything why? But it's all because of their structure of how it works. So that's just another side bit that somewhere needs to be worked on for this program to really work. Because the community college is one thing, but to go on to a 4-year school, if the school's not going to accept them.
Well, I think that's why it's more than just University of Maryland. It's all of the colleges that are in that system. So that would be UMES, UMBC. I'm not even sure which. Salisbury, I believe, is in that system.
But it wouldn't be a school at a state.
No, everything is in state. It's only Maryland. You go to a community college in Maryland, and you go to a University of Maryland system college.
If I can interject my 2 cents worth, I'm an alum of the University of Maryland, just like our president is, and I agree 150% with everything he's saying, because I look back, and here's a school that I graduated from. Probably today, if I applied, they wouldn't take me. So to me, it kind of defeats the purpose of having the University of Maryland if we have kids from Maryland that can't get in and go to the school. So I'm with you 150% on that.
I've got 2 children, my 2 youngest children, that applied to the University of Maryland. They were not accepted, but they were accepted at Cornell. Now, you don't get into Cornell. I mean, they don't just let anybody into Cornell.
No,
I mean, they were both good students. But it just blew my mind that they couldn't get accepted at Maryland, but yet they got accepted at Cornell.
I've heard that the College Park campus is difficult to get into.
And for
I think the other schools are not as difficult.
But it wouldn't have done any good for them to go to Salisbury. They were both in agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted a school that had agriculture. So if you're going to a school in Maryland, the only school that has any agriculture in Maryland is University of Maryland. So it wouldn't have done them any good to go to Salisbury or UMES or Towson or Frostburg or any other school. But it just leaves a bad, I was even an alumnus of University of Maryland. I was a good student. I was selected the outstanding senior in the College of Agriculture, but that didn't make any difference. Your kids aren't good enough. So I think somewhere, if they pass that law, then it needs to be some conditions on it that the children.
And I don't know if that's an automatic admission. I had not heard or read that, but again, I don't know everything about this yet. And that bill is in committee. Here's what I do know. If kids want to apply for this, they have to do the FAFSA first.
Right.
That has to be done, and that is a monumental task, having put 2 kids through college myself. FAFSA is hard, so I don't want too much moss to grow under.
It used to be, because now you can link it right to your IRS account.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes,
However,
that's
some of our
rather new.
kids don't have internet in their homes.
True.
And
That's
these
true.
are the kids that I'm thinking about that just maybe need a little support to just fill out the FAFSA, and then we have the next step for you.
A lot of parents are very daunted by the FAFSA.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now that they can be linked to your taxes, it shaves off a lot of time and aggravation.
A lot of times when you just look at it initially, you say, oh, no.
It's daunting.
And that is it's a problem.
If you're a high school student and you don't have parents supporting you to complete that, it's
even more
almost
daunting.
impossible.
Right.
So, okay, well, thanks for your time.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for our kids and for their families. So, thank you.
Thank you.
For bringing it to our attention.
Next we have Sam Johnson.
He's gone.
He's already gone. Eileen Lindstrom.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Yeager, administrators. My name is Ileana Lindstrom. I am a clinical psychologist in independent practice here in Chestertown. And I'm here this evening specifically in the capacity of bringing you greetings on behalf of the members of the Social Action Committee for Racial Justice of Kent County. As our members continue with their attendance at the commissioners' meetings, we are looking forward to bringing back to the Social Action Committee for Racial Justice your actions towards the fulfillment of the commitments you made during your candidate interviews with us back in October. And it is our hope that you will recognize the Social Action Committee as a very valuable resource in your efforts to dismantle racism in Kent County. We look forward to working with you. And finally, as a point of information, the Social Action Committee for Racial Justice meets every Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Every Tuesday of the month at 6 o'clock at Sumner Hall here in Chestertown. And I thank you for this opportunity to share my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other comments from anyone? If not, I have a motion to...
What about contingency report?
You want the contingency report?
Yeah. Did you do the contingency?
That's just a report. That's for informational purposes.
Mr. President, the motion would be to go into closed session. You want to entertain such a motion to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. And the reason for closing the session is that you're going to be discussing matters that involve individuals' qualifications for employment, and such information is confidential to the employees or prospective employees.
So now we need to close the open session to go into closed session.
And a motion for the reasons that I just said to go into a closed session.
Make a motion to go into closed session.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.